All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ushanka Show Live. This one is for 104,000 subscribers. I goofed it up. I put it earlier and scheduled, but I made it private live show, and unfortunately, guess a lot of people didn't notice. But we're gonna wait till we see if anybody will join me today. But anyway. Just by accident, we had a small explosion of subscription, about 4,000 maybe. 3,000 new subscribers mostly came from one short, which is I just borrowed from the front lines. And for some reason, although I styled the video in English language, most people who subscribed came from, looks like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and other countries. Okay, all right. So we have people joining. I became worried again. Like my first live, I forgot to mark it public and I did it private. So thank you for joining Ushanka Show Live. Questions and answers about life in the Soviet Union. So when we get some people joining, we can start talking about answering your questions. So please let me know if you hear the sound good. It's always a concern. Sometimes people complain that sound is not working really well. So if you can confirm. All right, here you go. So people started joining. Thank you so much. We got Jesse from Kansas. Sound is great. Good. Now the mic saying thank you all for your great videos. Sounds good to me. No, this morning I got another text from unmarked van from New Jersey. Well, they send mass text a couple days before coming. So every one Saturday, I think a month, they drive from New Jersey all the way to South Bend, Indiana, Elkhart, Indiana, and they sell Eastern, could say Russian, Ukrainian groceries. Mostly now it's Ukrainian, Kazakhstan, so everything from the former Soviet Union. So my son wanted to go today, so we went and had a little shopping spree there. Nick, hello, thank you for joining. Okay, that's why I ignored Fabi and I ignored your first comment. I couldn't understand. Well, Chernobyl, I grew up near Chernobyl, but near, it was about 50 miles away, something like that. It was north of us, and of course, I was already 15 when it blew up. And people sometimes asking about any effects, and I always kind of still joke I used to be short and had a dark hair. But fortunately, nothing so far side effects from that radiation situation, although my brother was born in 1986 in September. So all right, we got more people joining. But so anyway, so we went to the grocery shop and I talked a little bit to those two guys. So they drive all the way from New Jersey, 8090 highway. I don't know if you're familiar with the map of the United States. 11 hours drive. So they arrive at like at 8 o'clock in the morning. So they drive through the night, sell grocery items. There's a lot of it that you can't find around here. So I load up on a bunch of stuff. Got some pickled marinated tomatoes, some kabachkovaya икра. So it's a lot of stuff. So marinated mushrooms, I like those a lot. Marinated chanterelle. So we got some groceries. So that was kind of cool. And my kid likes a lot so-called, it's like croutons, but they have like meat flavor, fish flavor. No one likes fish flavor. So stuff like that. So yeah, that was great. We got sister here. Hello, thank you for joining. So that was my morning adventure. It's about 25 miles, something like that, from my house to that Elkhart, and it's like I guess some person from former Soviet Union has a small car dealership. They buy wrecked cars, fix them, and sell them, and they allow this person to set up his little shop. It looks like like the garage sale, have tables and there's groceries on it. So yeah, we load up good. And yeah, that was our adventure. And then I took my son to Studebaker Museum in South Bend. So was our kind of father and son time today. He just turned 18 in May. So so let's see there. If you have any questions, of course, just post it here, and this will be answering. So we got first question from Queen of the Matech. Are you still friends with Dima, and if so, would you consider doing a Q&A with him? Yeah, stay in touch. He in Ukraine. The town used to be called Kirovograd. Kirov, it's one of the Soviet leaders. Maybe he was born there, but of course now it's renamed to Krapivnitsky. It's always hard to remember. I believe original name was maybe Yelizavetgrad. So Yelizaveta, one of the tsarinas of Russia, and then was renamed to Kirovgrad. Maybe it was Stalin for a while. Anyways, Soviets used to change a lot of names, right, in towns. He works as a doctor. I stay in touch with him through Facebook, and I don't know what kind of Q&A you guys. I don't know if you can do like going live because the time difference in Ukraine. I think they're like 7 hours ahead of Michigan. But if you think there's a questions, I can ask him and then tell you about it. He's doing okay. I mean, considering because Krapivnitsky also periodically get Russian rockets coming and exploding. So yeah, they're doing okay. You know, his mother, she's from the same village as my mother from the Zhovit in northern Ukraine, and his mom didn't move far away. Like my mom went all the way to Kiev, and his mother moved to a small town nearby called Gorodnya. She went to college to be a pharmaceutical person, pharmaceutic, we say. So she works at the local drugstore, apteka, all her life, and that's like a lucrative job because she had access to hard to get, drugs, medicines, like also Indian condoms. There was a big demand for quality condoms. I think I made a video about it. Truth about birth control. Like Soviet condoms, they came in pack of two and had talc, so they like dry condoms. And Indian came lubricated. They were way more expensive, but they were because they were so much better quality. It was hard to find some, so she was had access because I remember one time she brought some to the village because they expired, and we had a good time filling them with water. That was first time I was, I don't know, 12, maybe 13. I had experience dealing with condoms, but just filling them with water. It was amazing how much water can you get in those. So that's kind of what I remember. But yeah, she all her life and lived in a small town, Harodnya, working at the local drugstore. She ended up being like a manager. So yeah, she was a big shot in that small town. Had a little apartment, 2-room apartment, and I remember you could tell that she had access to, because she had access to drugs, medicines. So she could do exchange of favors. So she had nice furniture, a lot of cool books that usually you can't find. So I remember, so she was kind of like the local elite because she could get you drugs that are not available in the open sale in exchange for some other favors. So, all right. So let's see what else to get. Oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention. So I learned about this Sprinter van coming from New Jersey with Russian food from one of my subscriber, Liam. He sent me email a couple of years ago, and he basically told me like, "Hey, I go to Notre Dame College, and they have apparently they teach Russian language. There is a department of Russian language and literature culture there. So he, learning Russian, and he somehow learned about this food delivery. So he sent me email, and today I met him there at that place. I was, going around choosing food, and he asked me if I'm Sergey, and I was like, whoa, and that was Liam, the guy who told me about it. So that was cool, to meet subscriber. I think it's So far, I think I met only 2 subscribers from Ushanka Show. One guy from Florida, but his relative, I think his sister, lives in our neighborhood. Just turned out to be, we found out by accident. So he came and he wanted to buy my books. And by the way, if you're not familiar, I have 2 books that I sell: American Diaries 95, 96. So yeah, he wanted me first to ship, and then he found out that I live in Bering Springs, so he came and I get him some books. The question from sister: do you have any Ukrainian decorative eggs? No, I don't. Pisanka. We usually, that's like a souvenir, which I never cared about Ukrainian souvenir when I lived in Ukraine, and we painted eggs for Easter, but wasn't like making them decorative. It's just you boil them with the onion skin to make them brown, or you boil them with the beets to make them purple. That's the only 2 colors that we used. We didn't have artificial all these colors that you can buy in America, and my family didn't do any decorating like actual eggs. And wooden eggs, I at that time didn't care. Well, looks like we got more people joining. Don't forget to like this live. Maybe it will help to get up in whatever those mysterious YouTube algorithms. So let's see what else. So Nick Adams tells me that he went there with his parents. It's a neat little museum. My son liked it. He kind of get into cars. I helped him to buy a 1990 Mazda Miata manual, so he kind of likes fixing cars and working on manuals. So he had a good time looking at those cars. Okay, so next question: how do you perceive Brezhnev back in the day? Did you see him as a lovable grandpa figure for the kids in the Soviet Union? What about your parents? Did they have positive or negative opinion on him? Well, he was pretty much the leader for the most of my life, because I was born in 71 and he passed away, I think, 82, 83, don't remember. So for 11 years or so, he was the only leader I knew. Because when his health declined in the early, late 70s, early 80s was really bad. He was pretty much subject of the jokes. Of course, there was no jokes on the TV, no, comedians making fun of him like they, do it here in America. But there was a lot of anecdotes, jokes about him, like people sharing, because he was just so bad, barely talking, kind of reminds Biden. But he had a stroke or two and he had problems talking. And he actually apparently wanted to retire, but his surrounding didn't want him to go away because they had everything, under control, that whole clan of Brezhnev friends. So they begged him to stay. So I didn't look at him either way, positive or negative. I think my parents kind of liked him because it's when the oil prices were high and we started getting more grocery items. So life got better in the early 80s, late 70s. Like supplies got improved, at least in Kiev. So my parents liked him because of that, because, you have just direct, okay, Brezhnev, and make their life better. But he was just a subject of a lot of jokes because he was so pathetic, trying to read that famous joke when he was reading the paper and saying, oh, oh, oh. And then someone looked in the paper and says, Leonid Ilyich, it's Olympic rings, because it was Olympics 1980 in Moscow. So, yeah. Now looking back, this is Brezhnev. It's a classic example what the problem was. Every time, country trying socialism, it always end up having a leader staying at power without being replaced till he dies, until he, we have an expression, until they carry you out legs first, because by the rule, when that person, when you remove him from the house or apartment, you take him out with the legs first, not the head. I don't know why, but that's kind of rule. So that's expression. So it was sad, but at some point, leaders too old to do anything to improve in the country, just kind of cruise control. You just slow it down. That's what happened on the Brezhnev, so-called Zastoy. But he did a lot for people. Like he continued Nikita Khrushchev program to build houses, because he drastically improved housing situation in the Soviet Union, that's so-called Brezhnevka apartments. So, that time, positive because of the better supply and housing, and negative because he was just like a joke. So, but a lot of people cried when he died because, when you have a same leader for so long, it's kind of like part of your life. It's like a decoration on the wall, so, but yep. Have you done video about tattoos in the Soviet Union? Not really. I don't have any tattoos. It's a good topic. I think I have a folder on my Google Drive. I put information together and pictures, but just shortly, tattoos, like probably the rest of the world, there was only criminals or military. So if people go serve in Navy, they'll have some kind of tattoo about their Navy, which years and the anchor. So sailors were famous for that, and criminals. For criminals, it was a big deal. If you've seen movie Eastern Promises, they kind of show that part, that every tattoo had a symbol, like you have rings. It tells you what crimes you committed and how many years you spent in prison. And like different rings, it's a different crimes. Then you have stars if you are Word of Zakonia, the criminal in law, kind of. It's not a correct translation. And then, of course, you have a church on the back, and every kupol, every part of the church is how many times you went to prison. So yeah, it's a good topic. But I said I need to learn because I wasn't into tattoos. I still don't have any tattoos. Okay. A question from one of my members of my channel. So another way you can support my work is to be a member of my channel. Of course, you also can click on the bottom. There's a you can show your support with your SuperThanks. You throw money my way. Any thoughts about debate? I didn't watch debate. I wasn't planning, and I came from work with a headache. It's at this point, I think, if you still didn't make your mind who you're going to vote for, I don't know what to say. It's, I think, obvious. So unfortunately, it's scary. I don't align myself with any parties. I like a lot on both sides, in the middle, and a libertarian. It's but what's going on, it's really scary. Like Trump really scares me, like, because the way he acts and what he wants to do with the United States government, I see him as American Mussolini, and it freaks me out. First he was kind of like a joke, but I'm concerned about it because he's trying to dismantle all this system of counterbalance. Three branches of power. He wants, pretty much, you just do what I tell you to do without, and not pay any consequences. So yeah, but I didn't watch debate. It's obvious for me, like, how we're gonna vote. But still, my personal opinion, I would like to have more parties in the United States, because at some point, I think I was reading that during the Reagan era, Republican Party moved to the right, and Democratic Party kind of moved with them to the right. And although people screaming that Democrats are socialists, the communists, they're not. If you compare with Europe, Democratic Party in America is like a centrist right party, and there's a members, of course, like Bernie and the AOC. They kind of on the left, so they need to have their own party. They need to be like hardcore leftist. There should be some kind of party somewhere in the middle, and then, of course, all the people that think that Trump is the best leader, best president in the world, in the United States, they should have their own ultra right party, whatever, and then Republicans somewhere. So that's kind of my opinion. So we need more parties because you right now have Pepsi Cola and Coca Cola. There's a lot of stupid arguments about stupid stuff instead of actually fixing the problems with the economy. There's, at some point, there's too much regulation. Another point, there's all these subsidies that, one side screaming about stop giving money to poor people, and then, you give billions to farmers that produce corn that no one wants. They make more laws to turn corn into ethanol. So, at some point you need to, like, make government be less involved in everyday life, and like economy wise, because if the government gets involved, you can end up with planned economy just like Soviet Union. And of course, another opposite side, if you do just the wild capitalism, I always put the wrong dictation, then you can end up, you know, have a monopolies and all stuff. So government has to be involved. So it's a complicated topic. Okay, moving again. So there's a comment from Sam. Sergey, I'm a 23-year-old young guy from the US. I love your videos. Were popular Russian books like Crime and Punishment and War and Peace still popular in Russia when you were growing up? Well, they never were popular, first of all. The books that were popular would be like the Agatha Christie, Jack London. Uh, those were not popular. They're great books, don't get me wrong, but like they made us read that stuff in the 8th and 9th grade and 10th grade of high school, and they just too much. I probably should read it again now. I had to read them because Crime and Punishment, I couldn't handle that. It was just so, it was killing me. I did the Мертвые души, the Dead Souls, and War and Peace, for high school, a humongous book. So we all had to cheat to pass the test on that, but I wouldn't say they were popular. Uh, I don't know about now. I don't think it got any better. I think books generally, since there's so much entertainment, first on TV, now online, people read less and less. It's a common thing. It's kind of scary that, I mean, it saves a lot of trees, but yeah, the books, the young generation, like I don't see my kids reading any books. I hope maybe when they get older, they'll get into reading books. But hey, we got actually somebody from Kiev, Ukraine. So hello, Bjorn. I wonder if you're Ukrainian or you're Bjorn. So moving along, see we got, we might even get 100 people watching this live. That'll be awesome. And don't forget to click that like thing. We got Montreal, Canada. Thank you for joining. By the way, if you're from somewhere, let me know from where. It's always cool to find out where you guys from. Okay, so we got people talking with each other, and it's also my ultimate dream. Okay, if I find out there's two people met on Ushanka Show and they got married, that'll be so awesome. Although it's really challenging because we still have. Let me tell you what we got right now for the audience. It's, let's see. Oh boy, yeah, we have 4% female viewers and 96% male viewers. So this is what we got. So it's I don't think we'll get somebody have Ushanka show marriage or meeting up. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna get what else we got. Just moving through your comments. So there's a question about voting system in Soviet Union. I need to make a video about it. It wasn't really voting. It was one candidate. So you just go there, you put the check mark yes, put it in the box, and then they'll have like a spot when they sell groceries that usually hard to find in the stores. So you're like, yeah, we need to buy. They sell, buckwheat and some other things. So you just go vote, and then you can buy some buckwheat. You can't just go in to buy buckwheat. You need to vote. And of course, there's one candidate that was pathetic. The way it works is pretty much, they will call some factory like, hey, we need a one candidate from you. He's gonna be elected as the, people's deputy. So your Communist Party in your factory, sit down, have a meeting, pick the candidate, then have a meeting of all the workers that will vote to promote that person as a candidate, and then we'll put him on a ballot and people vote. So yeah, it was a ridiculous system. Just, of course, they saved a lot of money. So yeah, the voting was, and I'm planning right now. I apologize, I kind of slowed down as making videos. I'll be making part 2 about Ukrainian nationalism, and that's about my first time voting back in 1990. So when I turned 18 in 1989, I could vote in 1990, and I was the first. It was the very first election and the last election in the Soviet Union when we had multiple candidates. So I was super lucky that I had my first voting. I actually had a choice. There was a list of people, and it was so exciting. So that's will be my second video about how the nationalism in Ukraine, because I lived in Ukraine. So yeah, conversation about Soviet Union. Yeah, Soviet Union was not communist. It was socialist country, but it was managed or owned by Communist Party. So the idea that when the socialism will develop enough, it's organically will grow into communism society. Communist society, like it's to the point you don't need government. You're doing so good, everyone is perfect. Uh, you just so you don't need government. It's disappears, and you don't need money anymore. It's pretty much we have plenty of everything. So if you need something, you go take a coat, take a boots, and then you go back to work or whatever. So that's kind of the general idea. So yeah, the Soviet Union was never not a single country was a communist. I mean, communism is pretty much like you go way back when people live, I guess, like tribes and had no government, no leaders, just people just live. It sounds like an interesting fantasy, but I'm not sure if it's possible. But like theories kind of makes sense. Also, I'm planning to make a video because a lot of people don't understand this whole what is the socialism, and they confuse like they called that maybe Sweden is socialist or Norway is socialist. It's not. So socialism, first of all, socialism is no private means of production. So you can't even have a horse. You can't make things yourself and sell for profit. You need to work for. The original idea was like workers own the factory and they work together, make product, but end up being pretty much state capitalism, but the government knows everything and tell you what to do. All right, so we got some people joining, say they've been watching for a while, first time at live. It's a Greeny Kitty, Kim Jong Meow. Hello. Let's see, moving along. I will trade you our Trudeau for your Trump any day of the week. I'm always curious why there are so many jokes. Something like Trudeau is a Castro son or something like that. There's some kind of reference. Um, I don't know if you want Trump. When he finds out that you guys, that Canada is socialist because you have a socialist health system, no private health system. Yeah, I don't know if you want that to see if he will try to fix it for you, like he tried to fix it Obamacare by just cancel it without replacing it with anything. I don't know, but I don't know much what's going on in Canada also in that regards, but. So question, good evening. What was Ukrainian version of a boogeyman figure from folklore? We had several characters. One is Kощей Бессмертный. I don't know how to translate it. So it's like a person that never dies is like a skeleton and, comes at night and scares. Домовой. So that's like every house will have like a ghost that lives in a chimney and he's watching over the house. But if he's in bad mood or he's bad домовой, he can try to scare you or do something naughty. Can't think of anything. There's plenty of course, Baba Yaga did like the witch that flies and does a bunch of bad stuff. So we had plenty of bad guys, boogeyman, but nothing like they stealing kids. We don't have that kind of horror style. Let's see. Next question. What is your opinion on Anglo-Saxon dominance of the world? They control most habitable areas of Earth, north, south, latitudes. Well, Arabs had their chance, right? Because they were way more advanced culture back in the day. But then Islam came, and we use Arabic numerous system, right? So they were way advanced in astronomy, mathematics, and everything else. Then Islam came and they went hardcore religious and it killed everything. So there was a possibility that won't be Anglo-Saxon. There'll be that area was Iran, Iraq. That was the dominant superpower. So they had opportunity at some time. It's just a bunch of this. It's historical, and it's where the countries were located. It's like if you live somewhere where it's extreme cold, like Eskimos, you're just too busy to survive. You can't develop your civilization. If you live somewhere it's too hot in jungles, once again, you can't develop civilization because all you do is just everyday survival. At some point, the Egyptian could take over. It's just the cycles. I guess it was another cycle, and that's what Spain, and then Britain replaced the Spain before it was Portugal. So it's kind of like goes in waves. And I think Chinese had a great opportunity back in the day because apparently they also discovered the United States. I think there's a books about it. But then one of the Chinese leaders decided to shut the country down and close it up. So it's just historical. I don't think Anglo-Saxon any smarter or anything than any other groups. It's just historically they managed to rise when technology was good enough to travel with their ships. They figure out how to do long distance sailing and took advantage of locals not being strong enough. Well, I don't, and I want to call Australia like the most habitable area on Earth. Australia, that's the best. United States it's the best territory. It's absolutely, climate-wise, Mississippi River for shipping. It's like America, one of the most optimal countries. You have a friendly Canada on the top, Mexico on the bottom, so the borders and then oceans, so it's well protected. So it just, I think, just they were on the rise in the right moment of the time. Now you see that China is kind of, I guess, first economy in the world supposedly, but they have their own issues. But they have a lot of population. But yeah, it's a good question though. It's something to think about. It's probably books about it. Have you ever covered any true crime from the USSR? One can be Andrei Chikatilo. I have videos. It's a KGB files where I basically translated the KGB documents. It's on my YouTube channel. If you go search my playlist, there's a KGB files. I'm planning to make a video about Andrei Chikatilo, but if you want to watch the movie Citizen X, you'll get everything. It's amazing. If they've done such a good job with that movie, I was so impressed. It's I think it's like maybe early '90s when they filmed that movie. It's about Andrei Chikatilo, and they nailed it. It's an American movie, but I think they went to Russia and they used cars and the buildings. They filmed a lot there. I was very impressed. But yeah, the thing about crimes is just we never knew anything because the Soviet newspapers published only good news. So only people in the area, I think, was Rostov-on-Don, Nadanu, where the Chikatilo was killing people. And those people knew because you couldn't know, but it was kind of localized compartment. Can't say that word. Like a compartment there, it wasn't spreading. So we began learning about that crimes way later. You know, So back to my comment about splitting parties. If they start splitting up their parties, they say Dems try to separate to form their own parties. They will lose to the Republicans. The same with the Republic. I guess, yeah, but it's pretty much duopoly, right? You know, the Pepsi Cola, Coca Cola. Every market. They end up having two dominant companies that dominate the whole thing. Similar in the United States. Um, I guess if they'll make the law that you need to have more than two. I mean, there's those other parties, Libertarians, Green Party, but they just a blimp. You barely see it. I actually, when I vote, I hate voting, Democrat only, Republican only. I go through the list, and quite often on the local level, I was like, you know what? I'll just vote for Green Party or Libertarian Party member or independent just to kind of make it more interesting because if it's all dominated by Democrats, could be spelling some trouble, or dominated by all Republicans. They'll just like, oh, okay, let's cut taxes, and then like, oh, we don't have any money to pay schools or roads, so let's cut expenses on schools and roads. Like that movie was played over and over again. So okay. Reflecting on the Soviet Union, what changes do you believe could have altered its fate? Was it collapse inevitable, or did Gorbachev play a pivotal role in downfall? My personal opinion, Gorbachev, when he became a main doctor, the patient was already like on his last breath, was dying. He, tried a little bit this, tried a little bit that, but it was too late, in my opinion. If you look at the history of Soviet Union, as better people's lives were becoming, is worse it was getting for economy. It just kind of, Stalin turned the whole Soviet Union in a labor camp. Article 58, pretty much everyone is guilty automatically. They could arrest anyone and find your guilt, or beat you till you admit your guilt, or, whatever. So, he terrorized the entire population because, people work hard uh, because of fear, and that's slavery. Greed, that's when you want to make more money, it's your capitalism. Or you can be inspired and work on inspiration for a while, but it's only for a while. You're going to run out of steam sooner or later. Maybe even one generation can be like in hopes like, yeah, we have a better life, so we're going to work hard for our kids. But like third generation, they'll be. So it's basically kind of, then Khrushchev loosened up a little bit. He tried to change the whole dynamics of the country. So instead of everyone is horrified, if I'm late for 20 minutes, you can be sent to prison. That's what Stalin did the law in 1940. You're late for 20 minutes without proper excuse. If you walk up late, it's not excuse. They can make you cut your pay 25%, and then you get in trouble, or you can actually be sent to prison. So Khrushchev decided to replace the terror with this, let's compete with the West. And that's all this, догоним and перегоним America. So we'll catch up with America and we'll overcome America, economically. And Brezhnev pretty much at some point was just let it slide. And, there was like almost officially accepted. I think Brezhnev said it once, that every smart person does something on the side. You like, if you're complaining that you don't have enough money just doing one job, you got to do something on the side, shure mure. So it's arrived, because if you know how the things were changing, we had after Brezhnev died, Andropov, and he was kind of like a Stalin 2.0, and he saw the problem. He tried to return country into this more, uh, people being scared. They started, chasing people, going to the movie theater in the middle of the day and asking people, "What are you doing here? Why are you not at work?" And if you're not at work, you can get arrested. So country already had problems. Gorbachev, he did make worse in some regards. Uh, I think his biggest mistake, but I mean, it was good for people, was not exactly perestroika, but glasnost, the freedom of speech. I think it's that it did the most damage. It's like if you pour the light on something that should have light on, and it just tells you how bad the system was. When the newspaper started telling the truth, or somewhat more truth, about our past, it kind of, this is what China learned from Soviet Union. They locked up their country information wise. They don't open internet. They have own Chinese internet. They have firewalls. You can't have, there's no Facebook, no Google there, right? So they learned from mistakes, we'll call it, and that if you do freedom of speech, the whole system will, this whole empire of lies will collapse. And that was, I mean, in that regards, that was his mistake. And then, of course, when you try to run prison as summer camp, you'll have people escaping. And that's what happened. Once Gorbachev loosened up, then suddenly Baltic states like, you know what? We never wanted to be part of Soviet Union. We live in, and kudos to Gorbachev. He then went hardcore, bringing, I mean, he tried, but not like occupying those republics again and forcing them to stay. and it was just went downhill from there. Then every republic announced, oh, we also want to be not independent, but like sovereign nation, and then downhill from there. But good question, thank you. So comment from Sam: I loved Crime and Punishment, but it was a struggle, and I didn't even read in Russian. I've tried to read War and Peace. I need to try again. Well, it comes with the age, Like I started feeling like I want to read some of those books that I had no interest as a teenager, but maybe now I think I'm mature enough that actually get involved. It's similar when I read Atlas Shrugged, right? By a lot of people hate that book. It took me like 2 years to read the book. I liked it. And I have mixed feelings about that book. There was a speech about what money is and what it was amazing. I was just amazed how she explained the money. It was a speech by this Francisco or somebody. But it took me 2 years to read the book because I'll read for a while and they're like, okay, I can't do it anymore. So I guess Crime and Punishment is kind of like Atlas Shrugged. It's a hard read, but there was a lot of there's like I call it. There was a capitalism porn. They made it like, oh yeah, we don't want government to help us. We want to compete honestly. Like, yeah, bullshit. Sorry. Anyways, Comrade Sergey, you're the best. Thank you so much. Have you ever watched channel Luba from Ukraine? I honestly don't watch any channels from Ukraine. I just have no interest, honestly. Like I been there, done that. I don't know what they can tell me. Um, I do a lot of what I do a lot on YouTube. I listen to books. Like I'm going right now through Solzhenitsyn. He has a huge book called The Red Wheel, Красное колесо. It's like August 1914 and further, and it's in Russian. So that's like every chapter, it's 3 hours, and it's like 21 chapters, 3 hours or 9 hours, 9 hours, one book, and it has 21 of those. So I'm right now on the part 10. So yeah, but I have no interest to watch like when people live in Ukraine right now. I mean, it's interesting for foreigners. I've been there, done that. Just don't have a T-shirt. Uh, hey, we got Sheboygan. I wonder if the Sheboygan, Michigan or Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Thank you, Matthew. Героям слава. We got Boston here, Pamela. Hello. Michigan Copper Country. Okay, so we got some. I was actually looking at the Google Maps for some housing in the UP just to see what prices are. Got Virginia, Southern Patagonia. That's amazing. Cool. Never been there. That's another place I would like to go. Wow, you don't need money anymore. Sounds awesome. I mean, you don't need money in heaven too. So let's see what else we got. Any questions? If I don't have any money, does it make me a communist? No, if you walk in the store and tell them I don't have any money, and they tell you, sure, just take whatever you want, then you're all communists. Indianapolis. Oh, that's a good question. Have you ever watched Servant of the People? Sluga Народа? Yes, I did. So this is actually interesting to watch because current president of Ukraine, that was his big TV hit, Servants of the People, Sluga Народа. And the beginning of the show is so hilarious because he kind of like has an amazing speech full of F-bombs. And it was secretly filmed by his one of his students in school. I think he was a teacher of math or something. And it's made him a president of Ukraine. And that's the whole show about how he struggles to be a president of Ukraine, fighting corruption and all this stuff. And then he created a party called Servants of the People, and then he became a president. So yeah, I watched that show. I found it funny. And what's actually funny that show is in Russian. So there's Russian. That's a Ukrainian show about president of Ukraine, completely in Russian, and then Putin says, "Oh, the Russian people in Ukraine, they don't let them speak Russian." Like, our president is Jewish, who speaks Russian and learn how to speak Ukrainian, and they call him Ukrainian Nazi. All right, see what else we got. Your next question. Which of the many freedoms in the West did you find most challenging to get used to? Well, the first one I was very impressed. Well, I got real uncomfortable how much fun you guys making of your president. That was like, and I'm already pissed. Went through Soviet perestroika, but still, when I saw a little bit of American TV and the newspapers, I see how cartoons they make. Drawing that time was Clinton in the 90s, 95, 96. It was like I had a hard time like how you guys have so disrespect to your president. Like, for me still, it was so bizarre. Like, they just making fun of him, caricatures and the whole Monica Lewinsky scandals. Like, that was a really bizarre. So that was, I remember, my very first shock. Um, Many other things, like, I discovered, like, now it's like your freedom to move around the country. That's really astounding. Like, we couldn't do it. I mean, it wasn't prohibited, but you needed to get permission from other town to move there, and then the separate story how you can get apartment there. But I work with a lot of people who, oh yeah, I was born in Ohio, then my parents moved there, then my parents moved there, then they got divorced, I moved there, then I joined Navy, I went there, and it's just like, just everyday life, they already were all over the place. And even like I have some coworkers, like, he grew up in a trailer park, but trailer park was there, then they move here. Like, even poor people still move around quite a bit. You don't move much in the Soviet Union. It was quite rare, only like military families. Sister asking question, do you have any pets? I'm an anti-pet person. I used to have a fish when I was had aquarium when I was in Ukraine. And I think I told you the story. Uh, when I was I don't know how old, 7, maybe 6, I asked my mom if I can have a doggy. And that time we lived in one small one-room apartment. And my mom said, sure, but you have to pick up his poop. And when she said that, I lost interest. It's kind of interesting. Other kids like, sure, okay. Just the whole thought of picking up dog's poop, it killed it right away on the spot. I'm kind of have that. There's probably a medical condition. Like, once you tell me something, I can change my mind 180 in a second, in a split seconds. Like, I used to drool over Dodge Durango when I was in the late 90s when I was in America. I see Dodge Durango and I'm like, oh my God, best vehicle, looks so cool. Like, and then friend of mine that I work for, he's like, hey, I'm doing some remodeling for the guy who works at the dealership, and they have Dodge Durangos there. If you want, we can take it for test drive. And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know what test drive is. And he's like, well, we can just take it, drive around. And I was like, oh my God, I can be Dodge Durango. So driving and asking me how to like it. And of course, I'm, and then he mentioned something about the gas. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, we just drove a little bit. You could already see the gas gauge started moving. I was like, why is it moving already? Because, it has a V8 and it's really bad on gas. And like that, I lost interest to have an SUV, not interested. Same like with the doggy. I don't want to pick up poop. I don't want to pay for extra gas. And it was same. I think I shared this story when I was in high school and we had initial military training, NVP. That guy who was like former retired military officer, he had a chit chat with every guy, every boy. It's like you have a file and he asking like, well, when you get drafted, is any like military branch you would like to join? And I wanted to join Navy because in my mind, watching sunrises and sunsets on the ocean, like, oh, like romantic, right? But then when I didn't make it because of my eyesight, they didn't, I went to college then. Anyways, I didn't go to military. I was upset because they just said, hey, poor eyesight, you're not good. But then I met a guy from Navy in my college who finished Navy, went to college, and we were in the same group. So I was all over him asking all these questions. And he was talking, and then he mentioned something that there's a handlebars in the bathroom, in the toilet area. And I was like, why do you need a handlebars? He's like, well, you need to hold on something because if it's a choppy, you can fall inside of the hole because you squat over the hole to take a dump. And if ship moves in, you can fall in, so you have a handle. And that killed the whole Navy thing, like right there. Like, oh, don't want to go to Navy. So, but back to pets. We had for a long time a dog. I didn't want it, but my wife said kids want what a doggy. So we had a Yorkie for a long time. It died, and now my daughter moved back in our house with us, and she brought a cat. So we have a cat named Taco. But it's hairs everywhere. So yeah, if I don't need a pet, like cat should be catching mice. Dog should be outside in the dog house guarding the area. I don't need pets as a toys. Uh, so there's a comments about healthcare in Canada. Obviously, we can learn from all countries and find the best solution. I mean, Canada is not the only one that free socialized medicine. Every other developed country in the world, United Kingdom, Germany, Israel, France, New Zealand, Australia, they all have some kind of government-run healthcare system. What I'm thinking about American healthcare system, like you go to dealership, but they only sell Maseratis or Lamborghinis. Everything's so expensive. Like anything, they will do quality service most of the time, but everything is just arm and a leg. Like the cost of service is just insane. And if you don't have insurance, it's just like you broke your arm and it's $10,000 to they charge you so much. So that's kind of what I see. Yes, it's nice if you can, if you can afford Lamborghini, but if I just came and want to buy a Chevy or little scooter, and you still charge me for Lamborghini price, and that's what I think the problem was. We spend so much money on the healthcare, it's insane. But then of course, it I wish I knew the solution, because for example, like I don't smoke, I hardly drink, I exercise, I just try to eat healthy. So I'm not a load on the healthcare system, because I even don't have a personal doctor. Like people are like go sometimes to and asking, you have a personal doctor? Like I don't. Like, why do I need a personal doctor to go to see him once a year? And he says, yeah, you got older. Well, for my work, I do annual medicals, and they check my blood and all that stuff. So, but what to do if there's another person that smokes, drinks, obese, and if we pay the same maybe amount, like 5%, like in Israel, you pay 5%, and it's an extra tax for the healthcare. But it's like, is that fair that I pay 5% and I don't go at all, and this guy, because of his bad habits, goes there all the time, and he pays 5%? So it's complicated. I can't, I don't have answers how to fix that problem, but what's going on in the United States is just so expensive, it's insane. And some hospitals, like our local hospitals, in this area where I live, I heard some bad stories. So yeah, it's but same with the Soviet Union. We had a free healthcare. I won't say it was great. It was okay when you're healthy, but if you look how long the average longevity of the Soviet citizens, it wasn't that long. So, oh, we got United UK was staying. Well, thank you for staying with us. It's impressive that you uh, were awake so late. So I'm glad you. Yeah, I always leave these videos. All my videos for Ushanka Show Live, it's in the playlist. There's a playlist Ushanka Show Live. Every video is there that I made live. Okay, let's see. Once you said that students in the back of the school room were called to be in Kamchatka. Did you meet people from Far East for real? The furthest I met someone was from Kazakhstan. The guy came to our class, and it was once again military family, and they moved from Kazakhstan. That's the furthest I ever met. I never met anyone from the Far East, like in person. We also had one guy from Armenia in my class, but no, I never met anybody from that far away. I have my guy who went to school with me, my classmate. When he got drafted, he got into Navy and he was sent to the Pacific Ocean. So he was there by Kamchatka. Let's see. All right, we got message from one of my members. Congratulations, 104K. Thank you so much. We're actually already at 107. I'm just trying to catch up, but thank you so much. Let's see what else we got. We're getting close. Probably about 10 minutes. I'll be wrapping it up. So, question: are you for Harris or Trump? If so, why? I'm against Trump. Uh, if you want to know the history of my voting, here we go. So I was became citizen of the United States in 2008. So that was first time I could vote, and I voted for Obama because of his anti-war message. Then I got disappointed in Obama because he didn't stop a single war, and he almost got into more wars. And at some point, I think it was not his desire, but we had Libya started cooking there, Syria. So I was disappointed. So I voted third party in next when it was Obama against Romney. And I don't like Romney because he was a Mormon, and I work with some Mormons, and just that religion is kind of I'm not impressed. Let's put it that way. Then we had next time 2016. I right away told my wife she still can't forgive me. I said I can't vote for Hillary. It's not gonna happen. Then I looked into Trump, and I was like, whoa. Um, it's so I vote third party that time, and then to the next time I voted. I didn't like Biden at all, but I voted against Trump, so I had to vote for Biden. And this time I'll be voting against Trump again. I'll be voting for Harris just to make sure that Trump won't make it back to the White House, especially with that coup that they did, storming Capitol, and he's still not in prison. It's really impressive. So yeah, he really scares me. So yeah, that's but what really scares me, it's not like he didn't create all that MAGA, like people were there. He just they answer his call. So that's what really scares me, that this country, at least 50% of this country is ready for dictatorship. They want dictator. Like sometimes people asking question, "Well, I don't understand how the Germany and Germans could, choose Hitler." Now I see the answer. This is how here people became just obsessed with Trump. I don't understand why. He's not a successful businessman like he claims. He not that smart as he claims. Like I'm a foreigner, but it hurts to listen for me to listen to him because his language is so poor. He constantly using the word thin this, thin that. It's just horrifying. And then he even doesn't know how to say Yosemite. He read Yosemite. So the guy is like uneducated, and still people love him. So this, every country goes to that stage. So definitely America has serious problems. You have this type of people become like a lost hope, or he can by himself fix everything, which is not possible. So yeah, so that's what's going on there. So, question: was there income tax due on the USSR and how big it was? It's a great question. We were a cash society, so the salaries were paid in cash. And officially, I didn't think we had a tax, because usually if they tell you pay is 150 rubles, that's what you get, 150 rubles. But we had apparently tax. Like if you're single, not married, you have to pay. They take some money out of you. But it looks like our tax was actually like 90%. I'm planning to make the video. I did some calculations. I did some posts on Reddit. And I finally realized why my parents and other families were so poor, despite the fact that both my parents were full-time employed, labor union members, and we scraped by. And other families the same. None of my friends, like I knew that had car. They went to Black Sea for vacation all the time. So the 150 rubles average Soviet salary, it was pretty much less than minimal pay United States for the current prices. So when I started comparing food prices, I need to do a little bit more. So if you want to try to live as a Soviet person in America, so you have $450. You paid your rent, it's 10%. So you have $450 for a month with the current grocery prices in America. You walk in the store, you buy beef, bread, you have $450 for an entire month. If you can make it, you will feel what it used to be a Soviet person. Our housing was very cheap. Couple food items were cheap, like subsidized, like bread, and the rest was insanely expensive. Like it's nuts. So that's why we're poor, and it's just the grocery items. Clothing, electronics was even more money. So that was the main problem. Because if you look at the pictures of Soviet people, not like special photos done by official, but just on the street, like besides the people don't look really happy, they don't smile, they look poor. And that's pretty much because you work as a full-time job, labor union member, and you make less for buying power than American minimum wage. So that was pretty much struggle. And then if you father or husband is a drinker, that's even worse. Like we had a neighbor lady, she was almost every month knocking on the door and borrowing 10 rubles to make till the next called paycheck. Was no paycheck. So yeah, we were, most of us, if you don't do any additional income, stealing stuff, reselling stuff, just living just on your salary, that was hard to do, especially like if like my family had a cooperative apartment. So the next question from Nose: do you think if the USSR had been monetary incentives to work hard, it would be lasted much longer? I mean, it will definitely will raise productivity, but this is you set up specific rules, right? So the socialism, you have specific rules. I wonder if you can hit 200 likes. We're almost there. Let's do 100 likes. It's 75 right now. If you guys didn't like it yet, please do see if we can do it. So that was pretty much the idea, that you work hard for pat on the shoulder, for your picture on the doska почета, so like a pride board in your factory, like, hey, good job, or there's a badge. I have my father's badge. And yeah, the people were just really cynical. You work like a fool, you get a badge for it. Oh, good job. So definitely it would improve productivity, but then you kind of break in the rule of socialism, because people shouldn't be incentivized by money. They should be incentivized by idea. And I believe when Gorbachev was still like he was a party leader of Krasnodarsky Krai, so like agriculture area in southern Russia, and he introduced money, kind of incentivized the workers, collective farm workers, like, hey, if you harvest the crops on time, and if you have a good crop and so many tons of grain, wheat per hectare, we'll give you more money. And he did really good. So then people came from Moscow to exchange experience, to learn how did you manage to do so good when other areas not. But when they learned that he used capitalist tools of money to make people work harder, he actually got in trouble. So yeah, it's like you play chess or checkers. You would like that every of your will act like a queen, but you can't because there's the rules. So socialism, you put these rules in place that restrict extremely people's entrepreneurship. There's a perfect example. There was a guy he was a teacher, and he got just tired of being a teacher, right? So he just quit the job, went back to the village of his parents, bought a house, whatever, and he started raising rabbits, and then selling meat and using skin to make hats, those Ushanka hats. But he was just doing on his own, going to the market, selling hats, selling meat, making good money, having time. He got arrested for being a parasite on society because he didn't register anywhere that he's working. And if you don't work officially somewhere for more than 3 months, you're a parasite of society. So he got arrested and sent to prison. And all he did was just work for himself, raising rabbits, selling skins and meat. So it definitely was. That's what China did. China saved its economy in its country. It's not socialist anymore. The Communist Party controls the whole system, the whole country, but they're not socialist. They have private enterprises, private companies under heavy central government control. But they learned the lesson. And they didn't do freedom of speech, but they took like that new economic policy of Lenin and then second new economical policy of Gorbachev, and look what China is now. So yeah, it would last longer, possibly. There's other factors like climate and population, and there's a bunch of other things. There we got Germany, Düsseldorf. Greetings, dobry вечер. There's a question: how do you feel about Department of Justice citing RT for manipulation of local media, of social media in the upcoming election in the U.S.? I mean, that should be done a long time ago, and I don't know if there's any laws really besides like being registered foreign agent. That's the problem with internet, and it's the what is the word? So it's a good and bad thing, right? Like I'm talking to you guys right now on some Southwest Michigan corner, middle of nowhere, and we have people from Germany, from UK, from all over the world. But at the same time, internet makes the world so smaller, so people take advantage. This social media posts, and a lot of people believe right away what they read if they like it. So definitely there should be ways, if somebody creating fake groups and spread disinformation, there's of course all about what about freedom of speech. I have First Amendment right, but if your freedom of speech hurts someone, then it's a different story. Or if you influence election in other country, I don't know if there's a law about it, but it should be done a long time ago. But yeah, they got really good on that. I could tell you that. It's because it's young generation. They don't watch TV anymore, so they found a way to get to people. There's a question. I don't know. It's maybe towards me. My brother is moving to Romania for work. Any advice? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on in Romania, but it used to be famous that Romanians were not exactly the most honest people, but it's probably just there's one of those things. But I don't know. Honestly, you need to maybe, I don't know where your brother's from, like from the United States. You might want to talk. Usually, if you go on the American websites like Department of Foreign Relations, and they explain what's going on in each country. I don't know. I don't have any advice about Romania. Let's see what else we got. We got 8 more likes, and we'll get to 100. Oddly, both Putin and Zelensky are shorter than average. Maybe that's kind of makes people work harder to achieve something when you're short because you're trying to compensate for something else. I'm 6'2". If it's a high humidity in the air, I'm 6'3". So I don't need to work hard to get noticed. Got Louisiana here. How do you like? There's a question. How do you like science fiction author Stanislav Lem, who was born in Lviv? So he was Polish science fiction writer. Amazing. His books are outstanding. There's so much humor. I actually was telling my wife one of the stories. I literally cried, and she had a good laugh. It's about so that's like a humor, science fiction humor. A guy crash lands in some planet, unknown planet, and his ship is damaged, and he needs to fix it. So he started working on his ship, takes sweet time, and then he wakes up, and he's older guy, and he's maybe I don't know 60s or 70s, and then he wakes up every morning, start working. He notices like his back pain disappeared, his shoulders like he's got less wrinkles on his face, and he's like, wow, what's going on? And then he realizes at some point that on that planet time is moving backwards, so he is getting younger every day. So you should be like, oh wow, excited, right? But then he estimated that he needs 2 months to fix his ship. But then he kind of looked, and he realizes that he doesn't have time because he's getting younger every day, like so many years, or or a year a day. So he will go back into the embryo by the time the ship was fixed. So he started hurrying. So that's just hilarious. You will really like crying because in the end of the story, he said, he's attaching some part, and he said that he's a horrible urge to drop everything and go and play in the sand with the toy cars instead of fixing ships. It's like his brain, he still understands that he's adult a little bit, but this kid urge, like, let's just drop everything and play with toys or chase butterflies. Like he's like, I can't, I have to fix the ship. And it was so funny. And then basically he had to build a little step stool so he can push the button to send the ship into space, and then had a little crib built in the bottle. So by the time when he finished ship, and like he crawled and rolled into, started sucking his bottle because he was a little baby. By the time he managed to get out, it's so funny. Like I had tears. Oh man, he had so many like hilarious. So yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Oh yeah, he had also Solaris. That's a serious one, but he had so many like this comedy style. I'm surprised that Americans don't make movies about it. It's to the level like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. It's galactic, right? This is kind of that level. Oh my gosh, there's so many hilarious ones. And that was one of the funny ones, and then another one about these giant creatures on some planet. They grew big and thick armor because the meteor is constantly hitting stuff. So there's like monsters that meteors won't kill them, and it's like a sports to hunt them. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. That was funny. Did people have old Russian Empire silver coins hoarded or passed down as a family heirlooms? Yeah, a lot of people had it, but a lot of people lost them during the hunger of 1930s. That's when I have a book about it. It's actually available in English language. She's a professor. She works in right now in the United States, Yelena Sokina. It's called Gold for Industrialization, Torxin. So originally the stores they made, they made stores for foreigners, so like foreigners can spend their hard currency to buy goods. But then they realized people were coming and trying to buy food because there were hunger and starvation in Russia, Ukraine, and the government realized like, hey, we can get more money out of people by selling them. We confiscate grain from the peasants, take it to the city, and then peasants go to the city and bring their wedding rings and silver they hid, and we'll sell them bread back at triple the price. So they sucked tons, literally tons of gold and silver from the population during those hunger years. And the 25% of cost of entire industrialization of the Soviet Union was paid by starving people. So a lot of the silver coins went to Torksin. It's торговля с иностранцами, trade with foreigners, it's abbreviation. and yeah, they got melted and shipped to the West as the silver bars. But it's a really good book. I strongly recommend. It's available in English. Gold for Industrialization by Yelena Sokina. So yeah, that's but yeah, you could buy. I know about people hoarding, but back in even during the Soviet days, we had a collector's market in Kiev on the weekend, and you can go and buy silver coins, and sometimes gold coins from Tsar era. You could buy American dollars, that old big bills. Sergey, have you read anything by Maxim Gorky? Only what they told us to read in school. Unfortunately, say one more time, I was too young. There's a lot of good stories, but when you're too young, it's just you don't care. All right, we'll do a couple more questions. I'll be wrapping up, guys. We got 102 likes. I appreciate that. Did Soviet Union ever aired pro wrestling? No, no, no. I never knew about it till I came to America. I don't know if they even show it during Perestroika time. Maybe towards the end, Perestroika. I remember there was a bikini mud wrestling. I really like that sport, but no pro wrestling. Let's see what else we got. Did the Soviet Union had their own version of classic TV shows like Good Times, Cheers? I don't know those TV shows. We really didn't have TV shows. We didn't have that TV series that you go for a year, 2 years. The longest was probably 17 Moments of Spring. That's a World War II spy movie, and it was 17 parts. That's it. But yeah, we didn't have shows that. That's a brand new thing that started after Soviet Union collapsed. We had no shows. We had movies, and there was some, I guess, some like TV, but way shorter, not years over years. Would you be willing to go to speak at the college again? Yeah, yeah. I just didn't. I haven't had any invitations after the one I did in Michigan here at the Ferris University. So I'm not sure if I forgot the name of the person who invited me, professor, but he said it was great. He enjoyed it. But yeah, so far I didn't hear anybody contacting me on that. So if I have, of course, it was my work schedule. Uh, we got some questions actually in Russian language asking, do you think Ukraine will be allowed to use long distance rocket hitting Russia? Eventually they will. I think it's common. And a lot of my friends in Ukraine and generally Ukrainian viewers on my Russian language channel asking, and I'm trying to explain that America will never risk nuclear exchange with Russia because of Ukraine. So I think what the American government decided, and we can talk about who will do better helping Ukraine. If the Republicans are in, president or Democrat, it's they won't risk nuclear exchange either way. So they chose the policy what they used in Afghanistan, right? When the Soviet Union occupied Afghanistan in 1979, they were helping just enough that Soviet Union ended up moving out. Wasn't pushing. They didn't bring their troops. They didn't do extreme weapons, but it was good enough. And of course, millions of Afghan people died. But Soviet Union ended up losing and pulling troops. Soviet Union did the same thing in Vietnam, helping Vietnam once again, pushing in a lot, but not that far. So I think exactly the same thing going on. Of course, if Russia wouldn't have nuclear weapons, there'll be probably a different story. Or if Ukraine will be one of the biggest oil producers in the world, there'll be a different story. If you remember how reaction was on the United States and the West when Kuwait got occupied by Iraq, that was a way different reaction comparing to what when Russia is trying to occupy Ukraine. So unfortunately, and I'm not good in the foreign policy of the United States. Definitely, like Israel is way more important to United States than Ukraine because they brought two air carriers when the trouble started. Hamas versus Israel. And they send weapons right away and supplies. there was no any conversations and no talks in the Senate or Congress. It's just right away Israel in trouble. Here we go. So unfortunately, this what's going on. All right, so we got a couple more questions. How popular is a hike in Ukraine nowadays? I have no idea. I don't think it's popular because we had only one good team in Ukraine back in the Soviet days, Sokol and Kiev. So I'm not sure if they have now. Of course, now we got war. They play soccer. That's a popular. What do you think about Vietnam market socialism? I mean, it's a China 2.0. I don't know if you call it market socialism. Socialism is kind of, let's leave the symbols, and stuff like that, but it's capitalism with the Communist Party controlling the country. It's just exactly same thing. So, all right. So, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you guys coming, and we had over 100 likes, so it's great. Thank you so much. I'll see if I find more time next week because we have 105, 106, and 107,000 Q&A to do. So once again, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. До побачення. Good night.